This is the moment the streets of Memphis will never forget. A man in a hoodie, a white Mercedes, 22 shots fired, and one of hip-hop's biggest legends was gone in broad daylight. But what really happened that day? Who ordered the hit? And why? Stick around, because the truth behind Young Dolph's murder is more shocking and more dangerous than anyone expected. That's him in the hoodie. Yeah, that's the one. Who's he aiming at? Young, right there. Now step back. That's one of the men who admitted on tape to taking out Young Dolph. And he's not done talking. He's spilling more about Yo Gotti's role in the whole plan. But there's a catch: people in the streets aren't happy. He's talking. And he might have to look over his shoulder for the rest of his life. Let's break it down. The murder that shook Memphis and the beef that lit the fuse. The streets of Memphis, Tennessee don't mess around. But even here, nothing hit harder than what happened that November day in 2021. We're talking about the brutal killing of one of the city's most respected figures in hip-hop, Young Dolph. This wasn't some random fight or small beef, it was a moment that had the city talking, the neighborhood in mourning, and the hip-hop world asking one question: how did it come to this? On November 17, 2021, 36-year-old Adolph Robert Thornton Jr., better known as Young Dolph, was gunned down in broad daylight outside Makita's Homemade Butter Cookies, a spot he loved to visit for his favorite treats. This wasn't a dark alley at midnight. This was midday, out in the open, with no regard for witnesses or consequences. Young Dolph wasn't just another rapper trying to escape the streets. He was a Memphis legend, a self-made millionaire who built his paper route empire from the ground up without bowing to anyone. The shooters fired 22 rounds. 22. That's more than a hit, it's a statement. A warning. The surveillance cameras captured it all. Two men in ski masks rolling up in a white Mercedes, hopping out with their guns, and opening fire while Dolph was just trying to grab some cookies. After the shooting, they vanished, leaving a city in shock and a community demanding answers. Memphis PD moved fast. Within months, 4 suspects were in custody. Justin Straight Johnson and Cornelius Smith were accused of pulling the trigger. Hernandez Govin was labeled as the mastermind behind the hit, and Jamarcus Johnson, Justin's half-brother, was said to have helped the shooters escape and collect the payoff. The arrests were only the beginning. Anyone familiar with the streets knew these 4 weren't the whole story. Someone wanted Dolph dead, and the big question remained: who orchestrated it? To understand why Young Dolph was targeted, you have to go back to one of the fiercest rap beefs Memphis has ever seen. The rivalry between Young Dolph and another Memphis heavyweight, Yo Gotti, ran deep. This wasn't social media drama or some subliminal lines, it was personal, long-standing, and dangerous, involving crews, labels, shootings, and a rising body count among respected names in the city. This kind of beef had real consequences. People on both sides were ready to act at any moment, and tension was thick every time their names came up. It all began around 2014, as Dolph was rising in the game, making waves with his independent hustle. Yo Gotti, real name Mario Mims, already established with his CMG label, allegedly tried to sign Dolph. On paper, it seemed smart in OG, bringing a hungry young talent under his wing. But Dolph wasn't having it. He had his own vision, his own paper route empire, and wasn't about to be just another artist taking orders. Dolph wanted control over his music, his masters, and his money, something that earned him respect but also rubbed the wrong way. Yo Gotti, apparently, didn't take that rejection lightly. According to Young Dolph, the guy went from being his biggest supporter to his biggest enemy the moment he turned down the deal. In 2016, Dolph even tweeted, "Bro went from being my #1 fan and wanting to sign me to being my biggest hater." That single line said it all. Someone who once showed him love and respect had flipped, started acting shady, and things were about to get messy. Once Dolph made it clear he wasn't going to fall in line, the tension in the streets rose. When someone switches up like that over business and ego, it can get dangerous, fast. And this beef didn't stay behind closed doors for long. Both rappers began throwing shots in their music, and it quickly turned personal. In 2016, Dolph dropped King of Memphis, clearly challenging Yo Gotti's long-standing claim to the title. But the real spark came in 2017 with Play with Yo _, a track that went straight at Gotti without holding back. Dolph claimed he had relations with the mother of Gotti's child, had a Gotti lookalike getting mocked in the video, and even used cover art showing missed calls from Gotti's baby mama in street culture. That level of disrespect isn't just a slight, it's a violation. In a city like Memphis, where real street ties and shooters exist, that kind of insult can turn music beef into real-life danger very quickly. These songs weren't just Spotify hits. They carried real-world consequences. The first major incident happened in February 2017 during the CIA tournament weekend in Charlotte, North Carolina. Dolph's bulletproof car was hit with over 100 shots in what was clearly a planned attack. The fact that he survived was almost miraculous, thanks to foresight and the armored vehicle. But the violence didn't end there. Just 7 months later, in September 2017, Dolph was shot multiple times outside the Loews Hollywood Hotel in Los Angeles. This time, the attack was life-threatening. Early reports listed Yo Gotti as a person of interest because he was staying at the same hotel. But LAPD quickly ruled him out as a suspect. Corey McClendon, one of Gotti's associates, was arrested for attempted murder, though he eventually beat the case. Fast forward to nearly 3 years later, and the legal aftermath finally caught up. In September 2024, Justin Straight Johnson's trial began. A moment everyone in Memphis, connected to the streets, had their eyes on. This wasn't just a regular case. Johnson faced first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, and being a felon with a firearm, charges that could keep someone locked up for life. This trial had the potential to reveal who really pulled the strings behind the attacks on Young Dolph and to expose powerful players in the Memphis rap scene. The streets were watching, and everyone knew the stakes were as high as they could get. The prosecution, led by Shelby County Assistant District Attorney Paul Hagerman, came loaded with evidence. They had surveillance footage showing 2 masked shooters jumping out of a white Mercedes and opening fire on Young Dolph while he was at the cookie shop. Phone records placed Justin Johnson, aka Straight Drop, and his co-defendants right at the scene. Ballistics tied the guns used in the attack directly to the suspects. But the most explosive evidence came from one of Johnson's own co-defendants, Cornelius Smith, who decided to flip and cooperate with the feds in exchange for a lighter sentence. Smith's testimony didn't just confirm his role in pulling the trigger. It suggested the hit went far beyond 2 street-level guys. According to Smith, the murder wasn't random or just personal beef. He claimed the order came from Anthony Big Juke Mims, Yo Gotti's older brother, and a major player in CMG. Smith said Big Juke put up a $100,000 bounty on Young Dolph, with Johnson and Smith set to split $40,000 each for carrying out the hit, and Hernandez Govan, the alleged mastermind who coordinated the operation, set to get $20,000. Smith testified that he and Johnson even met with Big Juke in the weeks leading up to the murder to plan it out, and after it was done, they FaceTimed Big Juke to confirm the job was complete. He also claimed that someone affiliated with CMG later covered $50,000 of his legal fees after he was arrested in January 2022, suggesting the label or someone connected to it was protecting those who carried out the hit. If true, this points to more than just one person ordering the attack. It hints at a broader organizational involvement, possibly even obstruction of justice. Of course, Johnson's defense attorney, Luke Evans, attacked Smith's credibility. Evans argued Smith was exaggerating or lying to get a better deal, pointing to a letter Smith allegedly wrote from jail, admitting he would say anything to avoid a life sentence. Evans also highlighted inconsistencies, like Smith claiming he was promised $40,000 but only ever receiving $800. Despite these issues, the jury sided with the prosecution. On September 26, 2024, Justin Johnson was found guilty on all counts: first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, and being a felon in possession of a weapon. He was sentenced to life in prison, minimum 51 years, essentially ensuring he won't see freedom until he's at least 81. Johnson's conviction gave Young Dolph's family and fans some sense of justice, but it also raised bigger questions. If Smith's testimony about Big Juke is true, who else knew? Was Yo Gotti aware of his brother's alleged plan, or was he in the dark? No public evidence ties Gotti directly to ordering the hit. All allegations focus on Big J.O.O.K. Big Juke, deeply involved in CMG operations, was himself killed in a shooting outside a Memphis restaurant in January 2024, months before Smith's testimony came out. No one has been arrested for his death. Some speculate it was retaliation from Dolph's crew, but there's no proof. Big Juke's death meant he never got to defend himself against the allegations or clarify who else might have been involved. Another key figure in this alleged conspiracy is Hernandez Govan, accused of being the mastermind who organized and coordinated the hit on Young Dolph. Hernandez Govan pleaded not guilty and was eventually found not guilty in August 2025. Reports say Govan had strong ties to both Yo Gotti and Big Juke, with social media and other evidence showing he was deeply connected to the CMG circle. But, just like with Yo Gotti, there's no public proof linking Govind directly to Yo Gotti regarding the murder plot. Most allegations focus on his relationship with Big Juke. Govind reportedly turned down a plea deal, sticking to his story and leaving his fate in the jury's hands. The fourth defendant, Jamarcus Johnson, Justin Johnson's half-brother, took a plea deal in June 2023. Admitting to accessory charges, he confessed to helping the shooters escape and facilitating payments after the murder. Jamarcus's testimony included texts where Cornelia Smith asked about Big Juke, backing up parts of Smith's story about Big Juke's involvement. But like Smith, Jamarcus had motivation to cooperate with prosecutors, meaning his account had to be taken with caution. He had reasons to tell them what they wanted to hear. Beyond these four defendants, investigators looked into potential links between the murder and others in Yo Gotti's orbit, especially CMG artist Black Youngster, who was involved in the 2017 Charlotte shooting. In early 2022, after Johnson and Smith were arrested, it came out that they had hired Art Horn, a lawyer who had previously represented Yo Gotti and Black Youngster. That raised eyebrows, though Horn later dropped them as clients and denied representing CMG. Still, the connection added another layer to an already complex case. The biggest question that remains: if Big Juke really ordered the hit on Young Dolph, was he acting alone, or did Yo Gotti know, approve, or even orchestrate it? Without direct evidence tying Gotti to the murder, and with Big Juke dead before he could testify, we may never know the full truth about who ultimately ordered the hit. Another major unresolved issue is Smith's claim that someone affiliated with CMG paid $50,000 of his legal fees. If true, it could suggest organizational involvement beyond Big Juke, a coordinated effort to protect the people who carried out the hit and prevent them from cooperating with authorities. But details about the payment remain vague, and it's also possible someone else entirely could have covered the fees. In Memphis street culture, it's not uncommon for associates to help with legal bills for someone facing serious charges. Then, there's the massive gap between the alleged $100,000 bounty Big Juke supposedly offered and the $800 Smith says he actually received. That's less than 1% of what was promised. Imagine being offered $40,000 to take someone out and only getting $800, basically a pittance. It would be infuriating, and most people in the streets would expect retaliation or refuse to continue protecting those who shorted them. Yet, Smith cooperated and testified against Johnson, even claiming he got played on the payout. This raises a big question. Why would those who allegedly had the money and even covered legal fees later underpay the shooters so drastically? One likely explanation is that the $100,000 bounty was exaggerated, or completely fabricated from the start, or maybe the full $40,000 payment to Smith was supposed to happen, but never materialized either because Big Juke died just 2 years after Young Dolph's murder, or because paying the full amount would have left a paper trail linking someone to the operation. Whatever the reason, the fact that Smith only received $800 for such a high-profile hit casts doubt on the idea of a well-organized, professional operation run by a powerful music figure and his crew. If this really was a CMG-sanctioned job with $100,000 on the bounty and another $50,000 for legal fees, you'd expect it to be executed efficiently, with the shooters actually receiving their promised payouts. Instead, it was sloppy and underpaid, which suggests the operation may have been more amateur than Smith claimed. This calls into question how involved Big Juke and CMG really were. The situation itself was tragic and messy. There were shootings and murders on both sides, adding layers of chaos to an already deadly feud. Big Juke's own murder in January 2024 only deepened the tragedy. He was shot outside a Memphis restaurant during a repasa meal after a funeral while his mother was reportedly there. Another person was also hit, and despite a $4,000 police reward, no arrests have been made. The timing of Big Juke's death just 2 years after Young Dolph was killed, and amid rumors about his involvement, led many in Memphis to speculate that his murder was street justice, possibly carried out by people connected to Young Dolph or the paper route empire. What Big Juke's death ultimately did was silence a potentially key witness in understanding Young Dolph's murder. If he truly ordered the hit, he likely knew whether anyone above him approved it, whether he discussed it with Yo Gotti, or whether other CMG leaders were involved. Or maybe he acted alone, motivated by loyalty to his brother's organization and a desire to eliminate a rival. Now, we'll never know. The truth he held died with him. leaving a major gap in the story and in determining ultimate responsibility. Beyond the case itself, Young Dolph's murder shines a harsh light on the deadly intersection of rap music, street culture, and real-world violence. Rap beef can seem fun or entertaining when it's just lyrical battles, diss tracks, and streaming numbers. Fans love it when rappers take shots at each other on a song or social media. But when these rivalries involve people connected to real street life, gangs, or criminal networks, the stakes become deadly. The line between entertainment and actual violence blurs. And what starts as music or competition can quickly turn into tragedy. Hip-hop's competitive nature battles, diss tracks, and claims to being the best has created some of the genre's most iconic moments. But in certain neighborhoods, these battles come with consequences you can't just skip over. What starts as a marketing tool or a form of artistic expression can spiral into real-life violence and sometimes into actual murder. People carrying guns get hurt, families get destroyed. That's why so many hate rap beef. It rarely leads to anything good. Young Dolph left behind children who will grow up without their father. Big Juke's family had to witness his murder firsthand. The shooters and organizers are now spending or will spend the rest of their lives in prison. Their own futures cut short before they even hit middle age. And all for what? Pride? Respect? Market share in Memphis's rap scene? Loyalty to a label or a neighborhood? The cost is enormous. Whatever benefits may have existed are tiny compared to what was lost. Fans and outsiders can mourn and speculate, but the ones who truly feel the impact are the family's siblings, cousins who are left to pick up the pieces. They carry the pain every day. We may never know the full truth about who ordered Young Dolph's murder, or who else was involved. But one thing is clear: his death is a tragic waste of life and talent, a destruction of families, and a grim reminder of how deadly the combination of rap beef and street violence can be. Young Dolph was more than just a rapper. He was a talented artist, a self-made businessman, a generous community member, and a beloved figure who overcame adversity to build his career on his own terms. His death robbed Memphis and the hip-hop community of one of its brightest and most positive figures, and robbed his children of their father. While some justice has been served, those who pulled the trigger are behind bars. The bigger questions remain unanswered. Why was he really killed? Who ultimately ordered the hit? Were powerful figures in Memphis's music scene involved? These questions linger, unresolved, leaving a cloud of speculation over a city still grieving.